You already have too much to do, more deliverables than hours, more expectations than bandwidth, and someone, probably more than one person, keeps telling you that AI is the answer. Here's the thing, they're not wrong, but which AI you use and how you use it, that actually matters. I was an early adopter of ChatGPT. I learned it, I used it daily, and I even taught others how to use it when most people were still skeptical. Over time, it became a familiar tool, almost like a trusted colleague. Then I started hearing a lot about Claude. I want to be honest with you. I ignored Claude for longer than I should have. Not because I wasn't curious, but because change takes real effort. I was already learning other tools and platforms. And at some point, Claude just got parked to the side. There's only so much new you can absorb at once. And if I'm being straight, change is uncomfortable, even when you know it's good for you. Today, I'm going to share why I eventually made the switch, what I genuinely love about Claude, what its real limitations are, and how to approach this without the stress of feeling like you're starting over. ChatGPT changed the game. It made AI accessible to everyday professionals, not just developers or data scientists. Ordinary people suddenly had a capable thinking partner available at any time of day. And because so many of us built habits around it, it became deeply embedded in how we work. Switching feels like a risk, like unlearning something that's working. After close to 30 years in corporate change and transformation work, I've watched this pattern play out hundreds of times. The resistance isn't laziness, it's completely human. We don't abandon familiar tools unless there's a compelling reason to. So, what was mine? Let me show you, not just tell you. I started paying attention when I noticed the conversation around Claude shifting. And because I create content, I make it my business to stay in the know. I was watching videos, following the commentary, tracking the space, and what I was seeing wasn't just noise. People weren't just saying Claude was catching up to ChatGPT. They were saying it had overtaken it. At some point, I realized I was forming opinions based on what everyone else was saying, and that's not how I work. So I decided to test it myself on real work I was already doing. I took the same document and gave both ChatGPT and Claude exactly the same prompt. Review this document, identify inaccuracies, suggest edits, explain your reasoning. Both responded, both produced output, but the difference was immediate and clear. ChatGPT gave me a review. Claude gave me a thinking partner. It didn't just flag issues, it explained why each change mattered, suggested alternatives, and core things I hadn't thought to ask about. The depth of analysis was on a different level. That was the moment I stopped wondering and started switching. Now, even getting Claude installed was a bit of an adventure. I went to download it on my iPhone. The verification SMS just wasn't coming through. Turned out it was a setting on my phone blocking it. I troubleshooted it and for a moment thought maybe this is a sign. But I pushed through. And once I had Claude on my phone, my work laptop, and my personal laptop, I started using it properly, not dabbling, really using it. And I haven't looked back. Before I get into what I love about Claude, I want to address a decision I made up front because it shaped everything that followed. I chose to start completely fresh rather than import my history from ChatGPT. So here's why I did this. It comes straight from my change management background. When you've used ChatGPT casually and inconsistently over time, The tool has formed a picture of you based on all of that. The rushed prompts, the vague instructions, the times you used it for very different things across very different days. That picture isn't necessarily the one that serves your best work. So starting fresh with Claude gave me the opportunity to be intentional, to decide from scratch how I wanted this tool to understand me, my tone, my priorities, my audience. I was designing the relationship, not inheriting one. That is a change management principle applied to AI. Don't just migrate your old habits into a new system. Use the transition as an opportunity to be deliberate. Now, this isn't right for everyone. Claude now supports memory import directly from ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok. If you have a clean, structured memory profile worth keeping, bring it across, but do it consciously. Review what transfers. Don't dump everything in and assume it will serve you. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Let me walk you through what actually stood out. I want to go beyond a generic feature list because you deserve more than that. First, the projects and instruction system. You set up a project, a dedicated workspace, and write your instructions once. Who you are, how you work, your tone, your priorities. Every conversation within that project pulls from those instructions automatically. For my content creation, this is transformative. I'm not re-explaining my context every time I sit down to work. Claude already knows my audience, my channel direction, my voice. I go straight into deep research or drafting without the setup effort. So for professionals producing volume output, this alone saves time and saves hours. Second, it learns your voice. Give Claude enough of your own writing, your reports, your emails, your scripts, and it starts to write like you, not a polished but hollow version. You, for anyone producing professional communications at volume, that matters. Your content stays yours. Third, deep structured thinking. This is the real differentiator. This is what I saw in the document review, and I've seen it consistently since. Claude doesn't just give you an answer, it works through the logic, flags angles you hadn't considered, and anticipates the next question. For long documents, complex briefs, structured thinking, and content that needs to actually sound like you, Claude is in a different category. The depth is what saves you time downstream because you're not fixing shallow work or repeating yourself. And for my content creation specifically, it helps with deep research without me having to set up context every time or repeat myself from session to session. Fourth, output quality that is ready to use. When I download a Word document from Claude, a report, a framework, a structured brief, it is formatted and ready to use, not a rough draft I need to spend an hour cleaning up. That time saving multiplied across a week of work adds up to something real. Fifth, it challenges your thinking. Claude doesn't just execute your request, it will sometimes push back, flag something you've overlooked, suggest an angle you didn't ask for. An AI that only tells you what you want to hear isn't a thinking partner, it's a mirror. Claude is a thinking partner. Let me be equally straight about where Claude has edges because I'm not here to sell you something. Claude now has a memory feature available to all users, including the free tier, that remembers your preferences and working style across conversations. But each project has its own separate memory space. Context from one project doesn't carry into another, and it doesn't bleed into your general chats. That's intentional. It keeps each workspace focused, but it means you need to be deliberate. Always make sure you're in the right project before you start. Wander into general chat and Claude is working blind. It takes a moment to think. Claude sometimes pauses longer before responding, especially on complex tasks. I've made my peace with this. The output at the other end is usually worth it. A tool that responds instantly with something shallow isn't saving you time, it's creating rework faster. The free tier has limits, and that's actually useful information. When I first used Claude, I hit my free limit quickly. I was reviewing a long document, which takes more processing. In the moment, it felt like a frustration. In hindsight, it was a signal. I was using it for exactly the right kind of work. Both Claude Pro and ChatGPT Plus are $20 a month on monthly billing. Claude comes down to $17 a month if you commit annually. Start monthly. Test it properly, then decide. The free tier is enough to know whether this is worth your money. This is something I want to flag specifically because your work is not a test prompt. You're likely to hit the ground running the moment you open Claude, which means the time to sort your privacy settings is before you start, not after you've already put 3 documents through it. By default, on the free and standard paid plans, your conversations can be used to improve Anthropic's models. I changed this from day one. Go into settings, find the privacy section, and disable training data usage. It takes 30 seconds. Once it's off, your data is not used for training. If you skip this upfront, you'll likely forget to come back to it. And for anyone putting confidential work, client briefs, or strategic thinking into Claude, this setting matters. If you're thinking about trying Claude, here's how I'd approach it. Step 1. Download Claude and use the free version first. Don't pay for anything yet. Use it for one real piece of work, not a toy example. Review a document, draft a communication. Think through a problem. If you hit the usage limit doing something substantive, that's your cue to upgrade. Step 2. Sort your privacy settings before you start. Go into settings, find privacy, disable training data usage. You're about to put real work in. Do this first so you don't have to think about it again. Step 3. Set up a project with your instructions. This is the step most people skip and the most important one. Write a short overview of who you are, what you do, your working style, and what you typically need. This is what makes Claude feel like it knows you from the first conversation. Step 4. Start intentionally. Fresh or with a clean import. Decide consciously whether to start from scratch or bring across a curated memory from ChatGPT. Don't migrate without thinking about it. Use this as an opportunity to shape how AI understands your work, not just inherit the past. Step 5. Run it in parallel for a while. You don't have to choose immediately. I still use ChatGPT for certain things. I also use Gemini, Grok, and Copilot. I'll sometimes give the same prompt to 2 or 3 platforms, see what each brings, and take what resonates. Each one has a distinct lane. Grok is direct, no nonsense, and because it's integrated with X, it's genuinely attuned to what's happening right now. Breaking news, trending conversations, real-time sentiment. If I want a fast, unfiltered read on something current, that's where I go. Gemini is my research platform. Because it's built into Google's ecosystem, it draws from the breadth of the internet in a way the others don't, and it connects to Gmail, Docs, and Drive for professionals already living in Google Workspace. For internet-wide research, it's strong. Copilot tends to sound more formal and corporate in the way it responds, and that makes sense because it lives inside Microsoft 365. When you're working in Word or Outlook, it feels like it belongs there. It's not something stuck on top, it's built in. That's where it shines. Step outside the Microsoft world and it's less impressive, but inside it, it does the job well. What I've noticed is that the same prompt gets packaged differently depending on where each platform draws its information and what it's designed to optimize for. I used to gather those perspectives and consolidate in ChatGPT. Now I consolidate in Claude because the structured thinking, the depth, and the fact that it already knows my context from my project instructions means the synthesis is stronger. Here's what I want to leave you with. AI is not the enemy of the overloaded professional, but it's also not a magic fix for poor boundaries, unclear priorities, or an unsustainable pace of work. Used well, Claude extends your thinking. It helps you produce better work in less time. Having a true thinking partner that really understands you, that can give you depth without you having to repeat yourself, frees you to pour your energy into the things that actually matter rather than being spread thin across everything. That is not a small thing, but it should be extending your thinking, not replacing it. I spoke about this in a previous video. It's called You're Using AI at Work, but it is quietly costing you. I will include the link at the end of this video. The professionals who are building the deepest dependence on AI, delegating everything to it, are not becoming more productive. They're becoming more fragile because the moment the tool gives them the wrong answer and they don't notice, they're exposed. Use Claude as your thinking partner. Stay in the driver's seat of your own thinking. So give Claude a try. Download it. Sort your privacy settings. Set up your project and use it for one real piece of work this week. Just one. See what happens. Are you already using Claude? Or are you still on ChatGPT? Or are you one of those many professionals I speak to who still feels like AI is something to figure out later? Drop it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. In upcoming videos, I'm going deeper into specific things Claude can do that will genuinely free up your time and mental load. Practical, real, no hype. The professionals who will thrive in this next chapter of work are not the ones who adopted every tool fastest. They're the ones who identified the game changer tools, used them with intention, and stayed in control of their own thinking while doing it. That matters because, as always, you matter. Join me for the midweek reboot. I go live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. South African time. I'll see you there.